Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan and welcome to the 10,000 subscriber live stream celebration for the Words in Time channel. And what are we really celebrating today, guys? Is it the channel? No, it's you. Because you are the people that are actually clicking the button. Whoa, I'm hearing myself. This happens every time I do a live stream. I have a YouTube tab open to make sure that it's working. I mute it beforehand, and what happens? It starts to play and I hear myself talking. This is professional work. This is why people are clicking the subscribe button. This is the level of professionalism you guys have come to expect after collectively 10,000 of you have clicked the button. And what does it mean when you click the subscribe button? Well, you are legally, you are contractually agreeing to the statement that sci-fi is the best fi. So it's too late to take it back now if you disagree. If you're actually more of a fantasy fan, you're still welcome. All I'm saying is clicking the subscribe button means that science fiction is indeed the best fiction. So thank you everyone for joining the live stream today. I'm going to be answering any questions you like. Anything to do with sci-fi, anything to do with books, anything to do with YouTube. You guys get to determine what direction this live stream goes. So let's check out some of the comments. We got some very, very kind people. Bionic Beaver, one of the best usernames on the internet. Bionic Beaver, Nick and Android, longtime supporter of the channel, has questionable opinions when it comes to the Jean Le Flambeur trilogy, but other than that, excellent taste in science fiction. Yes. Look, guys, I like fantasy. I watch fantasy movies, I watch fantasy TV shows, but when it comes to books, when it comes to BookTube, we're outnumbered, all right? We're 300, we're the three... We're in the valley of the BookTube. The odds are stacked against us. The sci-fi fans need to stick together, but I'm doing my part. You guys are doing your part in order to try and fight the good fight of sci-fi v fantasy. So last time we did a live stream, it was pretty crazy to me, the amount of people that we had from all around the world. I'm pretty sure Mike was here at a previous live stream. He's checking in from Northeast Ohio, all right? If you're from Southeast Ohio, Southwest Ohio, Northwest Ohio, you get no shout out, all right? I want to give some love specifically to Northeast Ohio and Mike. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for joining the live stream. Thank you for repping the good quadrant of Ohio. Let's see. I was just saying, from all over the place, we've got Galway Island. We'll have a pint for you tonight. Nice pint of Guinness. What's the drink of choice in Galway Island? I don't really have anything very interesting to drink with you. I'm not going to cheers with water. I think that's people say that's bad luck, but I will momentarily hydrate with it. Not as good for cheersing with water, but good for staying alive, I guess. Let's see. Do we have a question here from Stephen? Congrats on the 10K. Thank you, Stephen. Is there a particular subgenre within sci-fi which you would recommend to try and reel those in, maybe, who aren't quite yet invested in sci-fi all the way in yet? So that's a good question. What is a subgenre that I think might have a broad appeal to new readers? Let me think off the top of my head. So I'm probably going to go something on the softer end of the sci-fi spectrum. Space opera is maybe not a bad place to start if it's not a hard sci-fi space opera, because it has that sense of fun and adventure. There's usually action involved with fights or battles. And because we're spending a lot of time on ships, it's often we get to know like a crew, a cast of characters. So if you like something that's maybe a little bit more character focused, often space opera can help you there. So I think space opera can appeal to fantasy fans and people that are new, and it also gives you some of the things that make sci-fi sci-fi. You can get aliens, you can get wormholes, warp travel, all that fun kind of crazy stuff. So the first thing that came to mind was space opera. Oh, we got a good question here from Nick. When are you watching the 3 Body Problem Netflix show? So guys, because of the channel, because of your support, because of you clicking that button 10,000 times, I actually got invited to the Netflix world premiere of the 3 Body Problem. in London. I do not live near London. That's a very long flight away. If they were going to pay for the flight, I would have gone for sure. So I could not attend. So that was a little bit of a bummer. If anyone from Netflix is watching, if you've got a Los Angeles-based event, California at least, I'll make the trip. But the show is already out. I haven't started watching it, but probably this weekend, probably tomorrow night, I think I'm gonna watch the first episode or two. So let me know in the comments if anybody has started watching it yet and whether they're enjoying it. All right, we have the answer to our what are we drinking in Galsberg Island? Guinness whiskies and Carlsberg are the usual tipples. Great word, tipples. Tipples of the gang. Galway is the phonetic sound of our city. So that is a problem being a reader, someone that doesn't really do audiobooks. I feel like reading improves my vocabulary. Not necessarily very helpful with pronunciations. I kind of just have to look at the letters, look at the words, make my best guesses. I feel like I'm decent at it. I feel like I'm not embarrassing myself every YouTube video that I make, but every now and again I will flub a word, and you ever so kind subscribers will correct me in the comments. So those are all some good choices. I'm not the biggest drinker, but I do like scotch. If I'm going to drink something, I do like a nice, a weekly drink, maybe a 12-year, maybe a celebratory drink, maybe a 10,000 subscriber live stream type drink, might be an 18-year, something to celebrate the occasion with. Let's see. Epiphany, I think this is in regard to what would maybe be a good recommendation for a new reader to sci-fi, Old Man's War. I like that suggestion because it does have that sort of space opera feel. It's quite funny, it's quite light, although it does deal with some interesting themes as well. It's fairly fast, and you get some of those classic sci-fi elements to do with time dilation, space travel, aliens. Apparently, John Scalzi had not read The Forever War by Joe Haldeman before he wrote the book, which is kind of crazy because to me it feels like a modern, humorous version of The Forever War. So if you like one or both of those books, try the other one. All right, let's see. So yeah, I've heard this about the three-body problem show that it blends storylines or elements from book 2 and even book 3 into the first season, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think I'm not someone that's you have to stick strictly to the source material. I understand borrowing things, especially if it's thematic things, but we'll see. Going all the way to book 3, I feel like that feels a little bit harder to pitch to maybe people that haven't read the book and don't want everything spoiled yet. But maybe it doesn't matter. Read them all, watch the show. I'm sure it's going to be good. All right. I need you guys to vote in the comments on this, actually, because I have strong opinions, and I'm not going to sway you one way or the other. And I can't really say the word. All right. You know the most famous sci-fi book of all time? Denis Villeneuve just made a 2-part movie series on said book. How do you pronounce the word? Is it A? Or is it B? Let me know in the comments how you pronounce it, because I feel very strongly about this. And my Patreon members are split. I need you to support me on this one, all right? While you guys vote on that, let's see. Have I ever been to Canada? I have been to Canada just once. I went to Vancouver for a long weekend. I really liked it. It was a very cool city. There was some good food there. You've got some beautiful nature and scenery right by the city. And the biggest meal I ever ate was in Vancouver. So my wife and I, Bonnie and I, went to Vancouver, and we were like, oh, let's do nature-y stuff. Let's be Canadian when we're in Vancouver, right? So I researched a hike to do, and we like walking, but we're not experienced hikers. I find a half-day hike, I think it said like a 3 to 4 hour hike, that was graded as medium. So I'm like, that's perfect for what we're looking for. This trail was like a 45-degree angle on loose rocks the whole way. It was one of the most physically challenging things I've ever done. All the locals in their Lululemon outfits were running up and down the thing. My wife and I were dying. Like she was just hating me the whole way. Then we got to the top, and the view was just totally worth it. It was fantastic. We came down very slowly. It was so steep that even coming down slowly made it kind of hard to get down. And I was so hungry when we got to this pub. I ordered this. It was a triple cheeseburger with brisket with 3 different kinds of bacon, all on the same burger. I think it was like 20 ounces or something. I'm not familiar with ounces, so I might be getting the number wrong. One of the most filling and delicious things I've ever eaten. So there you go. That's... I bet you that I talked longer about Canada than you expected me to when that question popped up. All right, let me see. Joanna, one of my favorite booktube channels on YouTube. We're trying to get... Joanna's doing a good job reading some sci-fi this year. I know she reads a bit more fantasy, but we're slowly reeling her in. I know she just read Solaris. I know she's reading Ubik. So we'll see how far we can coax her over to the sci-fi realm, and add 3 Body Problem to that list. Let's see. All right. Let's count some of these votes. So I believe I'm gonna have to double check this. All right. A was Dune, and B was Dune. All right. We've got done. All right. We're not. Unless that's a typo. We're not counting done. So that's definitely not how you pronounce it. All right. We got 1 for Dune, 2 for Dune, 3 for Dune. Steven's thrown in a C. June. June? If you combine it, sounds more like B than A. We got is that a done? How are we pronouncing this one? We've not done a very good job of limiting it to just A and B. We got a vote for Dune. Got another vote for Dune. All right, we're ending the live stream. You're all wrong. What is this Dune nonsense? It is spelled D-U. D-U-N-E, not D-O-O-N. Dune. It's got a U. Dune. I will die on this hill that it's the most popular sci-fi book of all time. Millions of people have bought it, and millions of people are pronouncing it wrong. There's only 4 letters. It shouldn't be that hard, guys, to get 4 letters correct. It's Dune. I'm not gonna... Can't believe I lost that. Never put something to a vote unless you're sure you're going to win. It may blow up in your face, just like that. Let's move on. Let's quickly pretend that didn't happen. Let's see. JPH asks, what is your opinion on e-readers / physical books? I find myself feeling stressed out. Dumb, I know. Hey, your feelings are not dumb. They're your feelings, man. Over whether I should read the physical copy or the e-reader Kindle Paperwhite. So, personally, I don't have anything against e-readers. I see the benefit to them. They are quite cost effective. You can download books for a lower price, and you can travel with them. You can go on vacation, and you're like, you know what? I'm going away for 2-3 weeks. I want to read 3 or 4 books, and I don't want to have to fill my carry-on and my baggage with a big stack of chunky books. So there's lots of upside to them, and I'm not one of these people that thinks that like audiobooks or e-readers are not reading, something like that. But personally, I just love physical books. I like the feel of them. I like the tactile sensation, flicking through the pages. I love that new book smell. Even sometimes those old classic books, I got a couple that you'll find for $1 or $2. First or second edition ones. The pages have started to kind of go yellow and stuff. They have some character to them. They have some history to them. And that's something that I enjoy as part of the reading experience that you don't really get with an e-reader. But whatever suits your schedule, whatever suits your finances, as long as you're reading the stories, you're getting the ideas, the characters, the content. That's what it's all about. So there you go. Any Canadian, shout out to Canada in the chat. If the Canadians want to do a sci-fi meetup, maybe it's something that'll go down in the future. Here we have John from Talking Story, another one of my favorite YouTube channels, and love the production quality. He has like the nicest setup and lights, and he has an amazing collection of all these first edition, special edition hardcovers. I actually enjoy reading paperbacks more than hardcovers, but as you can see, you got the Sun Eater collection. The hardcovers do look pretty good on the shelf, so shout out. Oh, we got some more Dune votes. Stop it. I was like, how quickly can I write an AI script to ban anyone that writes DOON in the chat? Uh, not very quickly because I'm not a programmer. All right, let's see. But this week's video on the channel was a discussion with Bart for on short books. If you are short on time, you don't like those epic chonkers that just go on and on and on, bloated with a whole bunch of nonsense. They just get straight to the ideas, 300 pages or less. Check out that video with Bart. And in Poland, it's pronounced, probably going to get this wrong, Duina? Duina. I don't know. I kind of like it. That's sort of fun to say. Let's see. Kindles are water resistant, can throw them in the lake. I'm not sure how that's a selling point, because if I'm throwing my Kindle into the lake, why would I buy it? Why would I buy a Kindle knowing that I can throw it into the lake? I'm only throwing it into the lake if I'm having a horrible time with the Kindle. You know what? I'm sick of it freezing, crashing. I can't read it. The colors are all wrong. Kindle be gone. And then I throw it into the lake, and then someone asks me, what did I think about Kindles? I'm not going to be like, they're great. You can throw them into the lake and then go retrieve it if you want to. So, there you go. Good to know it's water resistant, though, for accidental water splashes. Less intentional than throwing it into a lake. But if I were to be taking a mid-live stream sip of hydration, oops, I spilled it on my my Kindle. No worries, apparently they are water resistant. Here's a good question. What are the most treasured editions you own? So I have been hesitant to get into the special edition collecting hobby because it's an expensive hobby. One day though, I would like to have a really large, really nice shelf. Unfortunately, this shelf is not really a bookshelf. It's actually designed for vinyl records. That's why it's kind of, as you can see, it's, well, okay, it's a square. Let's see how good I can draw a bracket. It's square, and then it's deep. So it's supposed to fill records, and that's why, unfortunately, I'm starting to double and triple stack them, because I've got like over 200 sci-fi books. Anyway, I do like my paperbacks. I have recently dipped my toe into the collector's waters, though, with a couple of folio editions. I did make a video on whether I think folio society edition books are worth it, so check that out if you want to know my thoughts on those. And also I did get, I've only got one here, the others are behind, just because all of these chunky Sun Eater books are taking up this whole shelf, but I do have some of those deluxe limited edition novella and short story collections in the Sun Eater series, which are limited to just 500 copies. So the bigger that Sun Eater gets, and Sun Eater's definitely been popping off the last year or so, kind of the more special those limited editions kind of end up becoming, which is kind of cool. Ron has a good question here. How fast do you read? So it definitely depends on the book in terms of the prose. Is it dense? Is it slow? Is it fast? Is it action-packed? Is it easy to read? And also just the print. Sometimes you'll have big pages with tiny letters, and there's, I'm just going to pick a number, like 1,000 words a page or whatever. And then there'll be smaller ones, which are spaced out, large font, and it's like 400 words a page, whatever the numbers are. But I would say ballpark on average, I'm reading close to a page a minute, probably around 60 pages per hour. And then if it's something a little bit more dense, maybe closer to like 40 to 45, somewhere in that range. So I don't know if that's fast or slow or normal. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments. But yeah, I kind of think of that in terms of like, oh, okay, if I pick up a 300-page book, that's around 5 hours worth of reading for me. So, you know, those 1,000-page chunkers, like if you pick up a Peter F. Hamilton book, I mean, you're not getting through one of those in a day or two, at least not at the rate that I read them. Let's see. Beavers are fast readers. Well, bionic ones definitely are. They're engineering enhanced. Regular beavers, I don't think they read. I don't think they read at all. I don't think they're fast readers. I don't believe this comment in the slightest. Let's see. Some kind words from No Edit Book Reviews. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the channel. I'm glad you're supporting the sci-fi Community? Let's see. Ooh, good question here from Rob. Curious, what's your favorite popcorn sci-fi novel? I would say probably Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. If that, I'd probably place that in the popcorn sci-fi novel category. And sometimes people think that a popcorn sci-fi, you can't put it in that top tier. I disagree. I think that Project Hail Mary nails the story. Yeah, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. It nails the characters. They are really well-defined characters that I got really emotionally connected to. Nails the concepts, or some of the most interesting sci-fi concepts that I read. And it's super, super funny at times. And people will say, well, yeah, it's great. Obviously, The Martian is great. Like, and nobody has problems giving The Martian props. Everyone likes The Martian. Everyone likes Project Hail Mary. But it's no Dune. It's no Hyperion. It's no Book of the New Sun. I don't care if it's popcorn. If it executes everything that it tries to do at a 10 out of 10 level, it's a 10 out of 10. I'll put it at the top of my list. I'm not afraid to do so. Let's see. Oh. Thanks. Thank you, Moy, for joining the chat, giving both my bookshelf and my mum a shout out. I appreciate it. JPH is on Team Folio. I actually really like my folios. I think they're kind of so pricey that once you buy it, you kind of have to like it. Like, it's kind of like having kids. Like, people, if you ask people whether they regret becoming a parent, 99.9% of the time, they're gonna be like, no, we love it. But like, you've committed to the kid at that point, and like folios are sort of such a financial commitment that you're kind of committed to being like, yeah, I like the folios, but I do like the folios. Let's see. Ooh, John has joined the Suneater train. Howling Dark. I mean, if you get to the end of Howling Dark and you're not on the Suneater train, I don't think you're going to get on. I mean, even though I think Demon in White is my favorite, I feel like if you get to the end of book 2 and you're not on board, it's just not for you. I think book 1 is a little bit underrated. I liked book 1 from the start, but if you feel like it's a little bit familiar, if you feel like, okay, this is a little inspired by Dune or whatever else, I want something a little bit more original, even though I think it executes it really well in book 1, Howling Dark. Howling Dark is very original. Ending of Howling Dark is awesome. And I'm pretty sure you'll be full steam ahead if you like any kind of Sword and Planet, sci, fantasy, space opera. Suneater is the place to be. And as you can see, Disquiet Gods on the shelf is the next book I'm reading. I actually just wrapped up the first 15 lives of Harry August, the patron pick for the month of March, and I'll be reading Disquiet Gods next. Kind of getting sad. We're almost at the end of Suneater. Only one book to go. Let's see. Hamilton. If you if you can finish a Hamilton book in a month, you're doing well. Steel World. I'm gonna guess that this is in regard to the popcorn sci-fi comment. I read the first book in the Is it the Undying Mercenaries series? I liked Steel World. I thought Steel World was fun. It's kind of it achieves what it sets out to. It's fun. It's fast. It's light. There's some good action. If you like seeing sort of like a teenage character go through sort of like battle school type thing, learning. But do they really learn? Because they kind of think they already know everything, right? As teenagers tend to do. It delivers on that. For me, it didn't quite have enough sci-fi concepts or weight to it, or enough for me to want to invest in the series, because there's like 20 books in the series. But I did have a good time with book 1. Let's see. Oh, John's going to go meet Christopher Rocchio. Shout out North Carolina. I believe John's in North Carolina. Christopher Rocchio from North Carolina. My wife, Bonnie, from North Carolina. So, shout out NC. And I'll shout out the whole state. I don't need to divide it into quadrants. The whole state's getting a shout out. Good job. North Carolina. Let's see. A Metal Jag Suneater fan right here. Hey, any friend of the Empire is a friend of mine. Suneater. It's been kind of cool seeing it like take off in the last year or two. I think Empire of Silence had something like 1,800 ratings on Goodreads when I first read it, so I'm not saying I discovered it. Other people had certainly read it before me, but now Empire of Silence, if we go to the ye old Goodreads, 11,649. So there you go. Yeah, Sun Eater kind of popping off. I know the paperbacks, the trade paperbacks were sold out for a while. So flying off the shelf, but they are available again, I believe. So get on board. Let's see, good question here from Epiphany. Is Sun Eater sci-fi or sci-fantasy? So I don't know if those things are mutually exclusive, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably go sci-fantasy. It does have a bit of a fantasy feel to it in terms of, essentially because certain technologies are limited for certain groups of people. A lot of people are living in, even though it's thousands of years in the future, they're living sort of like an old school lifestyle. And then you have powerful houses and lords and things like that, a little bit influenced by the Roman Empire. So it has a bit of a classic fantasy feel to it in some ways. There's also some, I'm not going to say maybe not quite necessarily like magic, but there's certain things that happen and you go, ooh, that's a bit mysterious. It's not quite like, and so the photon is accelerated towards the so-and-so at a certain level in order to provide. It's not really hard sci-fi. A lot of the stuff the kind of weird stuff happens is kind of mysterious. Although we do have some cool technology that does get explanation. So there's a balance of both. But Nick says Rockio himself calls it sci-fantasy. Is that just good marketing though? Because fantasy sells more than science fiction. I mean, hey, two things can be true at the same time. It can be clever marketing and it can be the truth at the same time. All right, let's see. We got a comment here from Travis Bishop, sci-fi nerd. There you go. We're on brand. Hello, congrats on the 10,000 subscribers. I'm currently reading Peter Watts' Firefall. Finished the first book, Blindsight, last night, and going to start Echopraxia later tonight. Awesome. So I've only read the one book by Peter Watts, Blindsight, but I very much enjoyed it. Although it was a little bit of a tough read. He doesn't really hold your hand with the world building. I was kind of confused for like the first half, although I was still enjoying it. Even though I didn't feel like I understood necessarily everything, I was having a good time. And then when I started to piece things together, the ending just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. It's one of those sci-fi books that you think about maybe forever. Like I probably 40 years from now will just hear Blindsight or hear a concept mentioned in Blindsight, and I will probably still have the same visceral reaction where I'm like, yeah, that kind of upset me. That kind of scared me. That kind of changed my view on some things. So even though Blindsight might not be one of the most fun books I've ever read, I think one of the best and most impactful books I've ever read. Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of not quite the same, but Rockio is a Star Wars fan, so it's kind of somewhat in that realm. Let's see. A question from Cosmic Justice. Did you ever get around to reading A Fire Upon the Deep? Just received a copy of Blood Music. Let's go, Blood Music. Finally had to wait 3 months to get it delivered to China. Interesting. So, A Fire Upon the Deep I have read by Vinge, who unfortunately just passed away this week. Definitely one of the most influential modern sci-fi writers. Won a bunch of Hugo Awards. Highly influential, particularly on the renaissance, I guess, of the space opera genre. I've only read one of his books, and it was A Fire Upon the Deep. And I liked it for the ideas. I thought the Zones of Thought was just captivating. However, I know this is a lot of people's favorite book. Like, they put it #1 on their list. I didn't quite connect with the story and the characters as much as I wanted to. So even though I liked the book, it wasn't on that top tier for me. But I'm definitely interested in reading more Vinge. I know a lot of people like, is it the prequel? A Deepness in the Sky? Someone confirm whether that's a prequel or a sequel. But I know people like that as much, if not more, than A Fire Upon the Deep, I've heard. Let's see. Shout out Cyborg Ray. Cyborg Ray asks, what subgenre of sci-fi do you consider the most essential for your reading enjoyment? Ooh. I don't really know. I do like to try and split up my sci-fi reading fairly evenly between hard sci-fi, soft sci-fi, classic sci-fi, modern sci-fi. I don't know why we're pointing in different directions. Dystopian sci-fi, optimistic sci-fi. I don't know what this is. All right, we're making a TikTok, guys. All right, somebody clip this and be like, Jonathan explains the different subgenres of sci-fi. I don't really know. I don't know if I have one in particular. I mean, can't be dystopian because you get too depressed after reading too many dystopian books. What do we got? Space opera, cyberpunk, military sci-fi, comedic sci-fi. Jeez, I don't know. Pick one, Jonathan. Just make a choice. You don't even have to believe it. Just for the sake of the live stream momentum, say a subgenre. We'll go hard sci-fi. Hard sci-fi, man. It's just, you can't beat the ideas. Just, I think that's the best thing about sci-fi. The thing that sci-fi does differently from any other genre. So if I had to pick one, I guess I'll go that. Let's see. Ooh. Tom coming in with the heavy hitting questions. What is your favorite book of all time? Well, I did make a list last year. So I can't remember if this is the most recent live stream that I did, but in a live stream that I did before, I think I said 2 goals that I had for the channel. Upcoming goals for the channel were, 1, were to do a bookstore tour. I wanted to do a video live, go into a bookstore. Well, it wasn't live, but go into a bookstore, shop for some books, see what I could find, buy some books. And that was a lot of fun. I did that. Go check that out. I can't remember what it's called. Something like, I found the best bookstore for sci-fi. Something like that. That was a lot of fun. And then the second thing that I wanted to do was finally put out my top list of all time. Because as a YouTuber, that's something that you kind of expect to be one of your most watched videos. And so I wanted to put a lot of preparation into that video. I wanted that to be a good video. I did rent an actual astronaut costume in order to do that video. I got it from the same production company that makes outfits for Stranger Things, For All Mankind, Ad Astra. So I got one of their astronaut costumes, which was kind of fun for that video. And what I put number 1 was House of Suns by Alistair Reynolds. Just medium to hard sci-fi, space opera. Story takes place over millions of years. There's a mind-blowing sci-fi concept every 50 pages. I cared about the characters. I cared about what happened. I thought it nailed the ending. It's pretty much everything that I want in a sci-fi book. So if I had to pick House of Suns by Alistair Reynolds, let's see. Oh, geez. Sometimes I throw myself in the deep end here, clicking on some of the hard questions. All right, Harold asked the age-old question, how would you define science fiction? Wow. Fiction that uses science. There you go, that wasn't so hard. No, really, I guess it's just sort of any sort of speculative form of fiction where there are things that I guess we don't either currently understand or don't think are currently possible, and the way that we explain those things uses at least somewhat of an attempt to explain through scientific means, technological means, as opposed to magic. But I'm not super stingy on this. If there's even just a little hint of it, I'll include it under the sci-fi umbrella. I mean, we're a bit of a niche. We're a bit of a niche genre, so I don't need to make us even more niche by being super exclusive. If you guys think it's sci-fi, if I think it's sci-fi, and it sounds interesting, of course, and is well regarded, yada, 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 I'll give it a chance on the channel. Let's see. So Bart, I think clarifying our Werner Vinge question, Deepness in the Sky is book 2, but the action takes place many years prior to, yes. So it was written second, but I believe in time-wise it's a prequel within the Zones of Thought universe. Let's see. Am I lagging? I might be lagging behind on the comments a little bit. All right. I'm going to choose to believe you genuinely enjoyed my dancing and you were laughing with me, not at me. Let's see. A Metal Jag. Says that he paused reading Neil Stephenson's Cryptonomicon, but wants to finish it. Did I like it? I haven't read Cryptonomicon. The only Neil Stephenson book I have read is... Geez, you guys aren't going to be able to see it, but Snow Crash. Snow Crash is the only Neil Stephenson book that I've read so far. But Cryptonomicon is on my TBR, along with Anathem, along with Seven Eves, along with Diamond Age. I need to read more Neil Stephenson books, but they're also chunky, which kind of makes me a little bit nervous. Let's see. Sci-fi horror. I'm not super into horror, but I'm kind of intrigued to try more sci-fi horror. I think maybe I could get into it a bit more than I'm growing up. I'm getting tougher. I can read. I'm not afraid of no horror books. Let's see. Book songs, another magic, another booktuber asks. Well, congrats, Jonathan. Well deserved. Thank you. I appreciate you. Do you remember what book or author got you into sci-fi as a child? So I might have talked about this before. The first sci-fi book that I remember reading, and it's kind of sci-fi / portal fantasy, but there's some time travel elements in there, so we'll say it counts, was the Transil Saga by Gary Paulson. And if that sounds familiar, Gary Paulson wrote The Hatchet, a very, very popular, very successful YA novel. So I read that when I was probably somewhere around 11, give or take. And I just thought it was so cool. It was such a fun adventure. It was kind of spooky, kind of scary. Like this kid kind of gets thrown into this other world. And there's like a bad guy and there's kind of magic and there's interesting technology. And how's this kid going to survive? How is he going to get back to his friends and family in the real world? Classic just sort of like YA tropes. And that was the first time I remember reading something, genre fiction, some things that were surreal, speculative, and that kind of sparked a bit of an interest in it. Although, to be honest, I didn't really fall in love with sci-fi until I got a bit older. I liked reading as a kid, but I didn't love it. It wasn't my main hobby. But that was probably the first one that I can remember that kind of piqued my sci-fi interest. Let's see. Ooh, Connor Hale has a good question. Best sci-fi for kids. I'm excited to introduce my daughter to the genre. Well, the book I just mentioned, I liked as a kid, so maybe that's a good place to start. Another one, I'm trying to think what would be good. Depends on the age. One that I read, I picked up, was it last year? Not actually knowing it was YA, was called Predators of Eden, Horizon Alpha, or Horizon Alpha, Predators of Eden. It's basically Jurassic Park in space, or like on a different planet. Essentially, the humans, a ship crash lands on another planet, and there's big bad dinosaurs. So if your kid's like 7 or 8, might be a little bit too old for them. It's not super violent, but if it was a movie, it'd probably be rated PG or PG-13. But if your kids, 12 or 13, something like that, and they like dinosaurs, they may be interested in getting into sci-fi stuff to do with space. It's quite fun. I thought it was a little tropey, but it wasn't too cheesy. Even though I don't read a lot of YA, I found it to be quite readable. So that could be a good option as well. I'm trying to think. Do I know any other good sci-fi for kids? I'll noodle on that. Those are 2 options. I'll come back to it if I can think of any more. Let's see. Cosmic Justice says they started reading Roadside Picnic and then realized it's the basis for Stalker. Thought it was feeling a bit familiar. So, yes, I don't know how closely they stuck to Roadside Picnic with Stalker, but I know it was the inspiration. I have read Roadside Picnic and enjoyed it, but haven't actually watched Stalker. But I do want to watch Stalker, and I do also want to watch Solaris now that I have read the book. Let's see. Nope, not gonna do it. Let's go. John added House of Suns to the list. I'm doing the good work. If I can get someone to read House of Suns in today's live stream, I'm gonna consider it a success. Here we go. Mick says it's been a sci-fi reader for over 60 years. So that's kind of the cool thing about this channel, talking about sci-fi, which maybe skews a little bit older than other social media communities. It's really cool that people in my comments will say, oh, I remember reading this when it came out in like 1968 or whatever. And I'm like, That's awesome. Like, it would be, it's kind of like getting to see like Jimi Hendrix play live or something. Like, you know, it would have been really interesting to sort of be a part of the science fiction scene during that sort of classic sci-fi era. So that's why sci-fi is so good. People are still reading it 60 years later. Let's see. Is your university schooling in English literature? I'm going to take this as a compliment, an assumption, because of my ability to dissect, to analyze, to communicate, and not just because I sound like a posh idiot. I'm gonna choose to interpret it as the first one, as a compliment. The answer to that is no. I actually did screen production in undergrad, and got a master's in screenwriting as well. So I have a film background, not a literature background, but sci-fi. Just in the last 5 years or so, it just got a hold of me. Let's see. Good question here from Stephen. Do you have a favorite alien species from your sci-fi readings? Currently reading Ringworld by Niven, and I'm loving all the aliens, particularly the puppeteers. So it's interesting that you mention Ringworld by Niven, because one of the first aliens that come to mind are the Moties from The Mote in God's Eyes, written by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle. So obviously that is a skill of his, being able to write aliens that feel truly alien, don't just feel like humans. If I have to think of something else, what's another one of my favorite aliens? I do like the harmoniums from The Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut. I think they're only in one chapter, but very unique, very special aliens to me. Let's see. Wally's got a good question here. Have I read much? Vandermeer finished one of his books, Born, and it was enjoyable. So I have not, but recently I did pick up a copy of Annihilation. So I'm looking forward to trying the Southern Reach trilogy. The ratings on Goodreads are not that high, but it's also really famous. It's really popular. So maybe it's a polarizing book. Maybe you kind of love or hate Jeff Vandermeer. I like the movie. So I liked Annihilation, the movie. So I'm excited to try his books. Let's see. Potrick says, congrats on 10K. What is a sci-fi book or series you would say is comparable to Death's End in its scope and universe-defining ideas? Jeez, you've kind of picked one from the top of the list, to be honest. But I would say in comparable to Death's End in terms of its scope, I would say, off the top of my head, that the two that come to mind would be pretty much anything by Alistair Reynolds. Well, not anything, but the Revelation Space series and House of Suns, and Ring by Stephen Baxter from his Zealey sequence. Both of those deal with massive spanses of space and time, and the ideas are nutty, and kind of the implication for our understandings of humanity and the universe. Just on the harder end of the sci-fi spectrum, those authors really, really go for it. And if you're kind of looking for that mind-melting type sci-fi, I think those two are pretty good. I'm definitely falling behind on the comments here. Anyway, Rob, the Canadian Geek, asks thoughts on Spin. Love it. Spin's one of my favorite books. I think I gave it a 9.5. Great ideas, great characters. They're a little tropey, but I thought it worked for the themes that he wanted to explore in that book. Highly, highly recommend. Oh yeah, someone else read the Transfer Saga as well. Let's go. I know the Hatchet was really successful, but I don't really know how many people read the Transfer Saga, so that's cool. The Ajax read it as well. Let's see. I think we got some kids recommendations here, so I'm just going to throw them up there if I haven't read them. Let's see. We've got Dan Wells' Zero G. Haha, Goosebumps. I didn't read Goosebumps, but some of my friends really enjoyed them as a kid. Heinlein's Have Spacesuit with Travel. Looks like Nick also agrees that some of his juveniles are good for a younger audience. Let's see. Oh, John Wyndham. We got a shout out for John Wyndham for a good introduction to kids. Let's see. I've only read one of his books, The Day of the Triffids. I don't think it has any content in it that would be too bad, especially if you're at least in middle school. It's a tad dry. I don't know if it would hold kids' attention, but maybe. if your kids have a better attention span than average, then maybe they would like John Wyndham. Let's see, some of our favorite aliens. Morning Light Mountain, excellent choice from the Commonwealth saga. The Tines from Fire Upon the Deep, another great choice. Here we go, slightly different direction, although I'm going to keep it sci-fi. Have you got a favorite film director? Okay, so people might just say that this is a topical answer. I'm going to go with Denis Villeneuve, and I'm going to tell you why. Because everything I've seen of his has been great. I'll start off with some of his non-sci-fi stuff. I don't know how many non-sci-fi things I remember seeing of his. But anyway, Sicario, great. Prisoners, haunting, fantastic. I feel like there's another non-sci-fi one that I'm forgetting, but that's okay. Arrival, one of my all-time favorite films. It was my film of the year. Blade Runner 2049, one of my all-time favorite films. Film of the year and better than the original. I don't care what anybody says. I like Blade Runner 2049 more than Blade Runner. Dune Part 1. I liked Dune Part 1, but I didn't love Dune Part 1. Dune Part 2, banger. Absolute banger. I'm not someone that's big on rewatching. I would totally go back to the cinema to watch Dune Part 2. One of the rare films where I'm like, this was actually enhanced by it being in IMAX. I will fork out the IMAX money to experience that again. Just absolute heater of a film, and got me super hyped to get back into Dune, because I liked Dune, but I felt like book one kind of came to a decent stopping point and just haven't continued the series yet. Dune Part 2, man. I can't wait to pick up Dune Messiah. Yeah, I might become a Dune guy. I've always liked Dune, but Dune's not really been my brand. I might be a Dune guy now, thanks to Denny V. We'll find out. Ooh, let's see. Have I written any sci-fi screenplays? Yes, I have, although not recently. Things I write now are... It's actually interesting. Maybe this is a part of... what's that thing called where you learn enough to know that you don't really know anything? So I used to write more sci-fi before I actually read a ton of sci-fi, which seems backwards. But I felt like maybe I wrote more sci-fi thinking I was going to pull it off. And now that I know a ton of sci-fi, I feel like, oh no, wait, the bar for pulling off sci-fi is actually like higher than I thought it was. Anyway, I will come back to sci-fi. I will write a sci-fi film again in the future with the added sci-fi knowledge that I have. The two sci-fi films that I wrote were... One was essentially like a near future story where like engineers are like the rock stars of society, and everything is kind of driven by technological progress, and that kind of determines your status within society. And the other one that I wrote was sort of like it's a boy meets girl, boy finds out he's really an alien, boy travels the universe in order to like try and find his true home. Boy comes back to try and get the girl. It was sort of like a teen comedy with aliens in it. So we'll see. I would like to come back to writing sci-fi now that I know a lot more sci-fi than I did when I wrote them. But I write a lot more TV now. I actually work in television, so I'm kind of more TV focused than film focused. But one day I will do it. Ooh, okay, Wally has a great question here. As a fellow Vonnegut fan, what do you think is his best, Sirens or Galapagos for me? I'm going to tease my answer here because I am finishing off Kurt Vonnegut's novels. I have just 2 of his novels left to read, and then I'll have read every novel that he's written. And I'm going to make a video in the next probably 3 or 4 weeks. 4 to 5 weeks. I'm going to make a video on Kurt Vonnegut. I will say that the book that I included in my top 25 video was Cat's Cradle. Will it still be at the top by the time I make the video? You'll have to check it out to see the full order. But as of the point in time which I made that video, Cat's Cradle. But Sirens and Galapagos are great choices too. Let's see. Stephen says, Denis Villeneuve's Enemy is amazing. Is that the one with Jake Gyllenhaal and the spider? Because that was not a good movie to put on with family. I I am often tasked with finding a movie for the family to watch because I'm kind of like the movie guy. And I was like, oh, Jake Gyllenhaal's great. Everybody loves Jake Gyllenhaal. Denny V, all of his films are great. Let's check this out. And then the opening scene, very not PG, very uncomfortable. The amount of nudity and spiders in the same scene, not desirable to be watching with the in-laws. So I'm not saying it's not amazing. I'm just saying choose when to watch it. Schedule wisely. I think we're still on the director here. Let's see. David Lynch. Yes, I'm a Lynch fan. I'm gonna say. Oh geez. I was gonna say one of his films that I think is underrated, and then I forgot the title of it, which was like doesn't really help my case. You know, if you're gonna deliver a hot take, deliver it with confidence. Lost Highway, underrated. I think Lost Highway is actually maybe his best. I don't know. Let's see. We're kind of catching up. Not really. We're not really catching up on the comments. You guys are doing a good job of keeping me busy. Can't even take water breaks. We're drinking so fast I might spill it on my e-reader, but that's okay because they're waterproof. Let's see. Travis Bishop asks favorite time travel book and movie. So, I really like time travel as a trope, as a concept, and I was thinking about this the other day that I haven't actually read as many time travel books as maybe I thought I had or would have liked to. Off the top of my head, I've just finished the first 15 Lives of Harry August and really liked that. Replay, I really like that. Both of those more time loop than time travel. Recursion by Blake Crouch, I also really liked. But I don't know if I have one that's like a clear all-time favorite. In terms of movies, I would say Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I think Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is one of the funniest movies of all time, and the script is just super tight and clever. It's not the most elaborate time travel movie ever, but just in terms of like hitting the story beats, hitting the character arc beats, like it's just a masterful script, a kind of an underrated movie. Like it's sort of a cult classic, like people like it, but I don't think it's broadly as popular as maybe I think it should be. And then Back to the Future. That's kind of the popular version of the answer, but it's true. It deserves it. Let's see. We got some Cat's Cradle love in the chat. Yep. Don't watch Enemy with the Family. Oh no, it's happening again. On my last live stream I did, the chat was going nuts for Tommy Knockers, and I was like, I don't think I know what's happening right now. I haven't read Tommy Knockers, although I am progressing my way through The Dark Tower. I'm up to book number 5. I was supposed to schedule it this month, but then I got an advanced reader copy of Disquiet Gods, and the two of those combined is like, 1,900 pages or something. So I'm going to read Disquiet Gods, and then next month I'm going to pick up Wolves of the Calla. Not Tommy Knockers. Maybe in the future. Maybe after I finish The Dark Tower. Let's see. Some loves for Gary Paulson and Hatchet. You love to see it. Oh, same with Rob. Let's go. We got some Paulson fans in the chat. Let's see. I think I might have caught up with the comments. All right. Dave Anderson says, not sure what a kid should read to get into sci-fi, but I picked up Revolt on Alpha C at an elementary school book fair in the 70s. Loved it. Found out later it was Robert Silverberg's first book. Okay, very interesting. I've only read one Robert Silverberg book, Dying Inside. Not a book for kids. Do not give your kids Dying Inside. But maybe Revolt on Alpha C, if it was written for elementary school kids, then that might be a better recommendation than Dying Inside. Great writer, though, so I could see, I think whatever genre, subgenre, audience that he chose to write for, I'm sure Silverberg would do a good job. Let's see. The Little Prince. I never read The Little Prince, but I have a couple of friends that went nuts for it. Let's see. Tommy Knockers in all caps is about an alien spaceship. Stephen King is he who wrote it. Does he understand? I do. I do understand. That's why I referenced The Dark Tower in response to the Tommy Knockers question. Just haven't got to it yet. Reading The Dark Tower first. Then maybe we'll see if I read Tommyknockers. Should I read Tommyknockers before The Stand? Should I read it before 11/22/63? Probably not. Probably not. But we'll see. Anything's possible. Let's see. Wally has a question here. What are some sci-fi stories you think could act as a catalyst for the genre to explode on screen more? I think of Game of Thrones as an example for igniting the recent fantasy TV surge. Very interesting question. It would be interesting to see, but geez, Game of Thrones is kind of lightning in a bottle. I'm not sure if we'll see something quite like that again. A lot of shows have tried to sort of follow the Game of Thrones model or try to be the next Game of Thrones, and kind of all of them have pretty much fallen flat. But I do think we will see another genre series take off in the TV or film realm. If I had to pick, I feel like Red Rising has very broad appeal. I feel like it has mass appeal. I feel like whether they did a series of films or whether they turned it into a TV show, I believe they're looking at a show, but I don't know. I've kind of been hearing rumors about that being developed for years now, and so I'm a little skeptical as to how far along they are and how soon that will actually be coming. But Red Rising, I think a Red Rising series could be a banger. I feel like that would do numbers, as they say. Let's see here. Yep. There you go. I just gave your same answer back to you, so I don't know if that's... you like the confirmation? You're like, oh, that was a good choice. Jonathan agrees with me. Or, well, thanks for nothing. I already knew that. Yeah, we're on the same page. Let's see. Epiphany says Red Rising is already dramatized on graphic audio. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I'm not really familiar with that many graphic audios, although I've talked a little bit about Deathstalker on the channel by Simon R. Green, and apparently there was a graphic audio for that. I don't know if it was the first book or the whole series, but people gave that really good reviews, and really good reviews on the audio in general, which is interesting because it's not a super well-known series. It's not even that easy to like find copies of the books, but apparently the audio quality, the production of the audiobooks was of super high value. So I'm glad they did it justice. I'll be honest, I did read book 2 recently, and it didn't quite have the same magic for me as book 1. I felt like the strength of the first book was the characters, and the second book is called Deathstalker Rebellion, and it tried to kind of like really show things on like a galactic level. It's like, here are all the different factions, and here are all the fights and the battles that impact this, which impact this, which impact this, and the stakes for the Empire. And I was like, to be honest, I don't really care about that. Like, I just want to see like funny people saying funny stuff and fighting each other. All of this, I don't know. To me, that was never the appeal, never the strength. I think we just got another gift for you there. This was never the appeal. This was never the strength of Deathstalker to me. So we'll see. I liked it, but I didn't love it like I did the first one. Do not read Tommyknockers before 11/22/63 or The Stand. Okay, there you go. And John is the authority on Stephen King. He is a... Is there a term for like king people? He's a king guy, he's a king man, he's a kingophile, a kingster. I feel like Stephen King is big enough that they should have their own nickname, the king people, the kingons. I say, yeah, the kingons. Is that good? Is that a good joke or a bad joke? Thumbs up or thumbs down the King-on joke in the chat. There you go, I did catch up to the chat. Good job, me. Kingsman. Hey, it was right there the whole time. Good job, Rob. Let's see. Constant readers. Constant readers? That's not as good as Kingsman. Kingsman's way better than constant readers. Is that like... is there a joke or a reference that I'm not getting there? I mean, he writes a lot of books, so if you're reading King, you're constantly reading. But that's not that funny. That's not as good as Kingsman. Not as good as King On. Probably better than King On. there you go. Yes, we'll see. Will I become a constant reader? Will I become a Kingsman? Maybe. The Dark Tower is kind of a banger series, but he didn't really write that much stuff that's, I would say, sci-fi. It is more horror, more fantasy, more just general King weirdness. But I don't know. I use a broad definition of science fiction for the channel, but I've got to stick to somewhat science fiction. I don't think I would pick up like Pet Sematary or Cujo or It or something, unless there's sci-fi elements in those that I don't know about. The plan is to stay on brand with sci-fi. As you can see, we're drinking water out of a glass this live stream. No free endorsements, no free brand shout outs. We're not going to be drinking what's that, like Dasani? Oh, who drinks Dasani in the first place? Dasani tastes like pennies. Do you guys think if I were to get a bottle of Fiji, I were to get a bottle of Arrowhead, I were to get a bottle of Dasani, I were to get a bottle of Evian, and then pour them into glasses so you don't know what's what? Do you think you could tell? Do you think you could tell the difference between the water bottle brands? I'd like to think I would, but I wouldn't bet on it. I'd be like, yeah, I think I could tell. And then you drink them all and they just taste like water. And you're like, man, what an idiot I look like, claiming that I was going to be able to tell the difference between all the waters. Probably Dasani. Dasani really does taste like pennies. The rest, I'm not so sure. I mean, I like Fiji water, but like, is that just because I like the logo? Is it just because I like the picture on the bottle? Does it really taste? Does the water from the mountain springs of Fiji taste better than the water springs of Colorado? Probably not, but it's got a nicer picture on the bottle. I don't really like Arrowhead. My office stocks nothing but Arrowhead, but after like 3 or 4 months of working there, I guess my taste buds just got used to it because I don't hate Arrowhead anymore. But I was genuinely upset. I said, we have 4 different kitchens in this office and you're telling me they all have nothing but Arrowhead? Like, we can't, like, it's not like it's the cheapest. It's not like it's universally agreed upon to be the best. Can we get some variety in the water here, please? Nope. I wouldn't buy it at home though. Even though I've gotten used to it, I'm not buying Arrowhead. I'm not bringing Arrowhead into this house. Are you kidding me? Let's see. Wally says yes. Rob says no. The water sommelier. I'm putting that in my LinkedIn profile. Let's see. Oh, here's a good question from Dave. Congrats on 10k subs. Love the channel. Thank you. Love you, Dave. The question is, what do you call your viewers? Viewers in time? That's pretty good. Wordies? Yes. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like if I come up with a nickname, is it corny if I come up with the nickname? Because, like, you know how you can't give yourself a nickname? Like, one time this guy at my high school, his name was Tom, and he came into school, and he's like, hey, what's up, guys? Just so you know, now I go by TJ now. Yeah, like, don't call me Tom, just like call me TJ. And we were like, no, we're not calling you TJ. You're Tom. You can't come up with your own nickname. And it wasn't even like a cool one. You just wanted to go by initials. Like, no, you can't come up with your own nickname. But I guess it would be your nickname, not my nickname. So I feel like Wordies is pretty good. Viewers in time is kind of clever. It's a little long, though. We'll see. Ooh, okay. Hard disagree, Rob. This is a Coke family, all right? If Pepsi's watching this video and they say, you know what? We love sci-fi. We love Jonathan. We love Words in Time. We're going to offer you a disproportionately large sponsorship deal relative to the size of your channel because we think you're going to be the hot new thing and Pepsi's going to make it happen. We're a Coke family, my guy. Get that Pepsi out of here. Coke, Coke Zero, Coke Vanilla. I wish they brought those like flavors back. When I think I was like about 12 or 13 when Vanilla Coke dropped. What a time to be alive. Like, us as kids, we would just be sitting in class, like staring at the clock. Like my school finished at 3:20. I'll be like 3:18, 3:19, 3:20, and we would just leg it. There was this shop next to the train station near our school, and it was a race to who could get there first to buy the vanilla Coke before all the other kids get there. It was like, imagine like a new iPhone coming out. Imagine like the final Harry Potter book coming out. Like vanilla Coke was my Harry Potter. So, no. Coke and Pepsi do not taste the same, Rob. Let's see. We got some Dasani hate. You love to see it. Spring water. Yeah, spring water's good. Depending on the spring, perhaps. Nick's differentiating between Coke and Pepsi, which I like to see, but I don't know which side he's falling down on. Is he a Coke guy or a Pepsi guy? I don't know. Nick, tell us. Ray drinks smart water because he needs the extra IQ points. You know, that's the type of thing someone that needs extra IQ points would say, Ray. So, Ray and I are friends. I can say that. I wouldn't say that to an anonymous subscriber. Only someone that I know well enough to know that it's true. Alright, let's see. Aquasolafina is the best interstellar water. I don't know if I mean, surely I've had Aquafina at some point. I haven't had Aquasolafina. Let's see. Oh, geez. Every Nick comment is a real roller coaster of emotions for me. Pepsi is not good. Dr. Pepper is the best, though. Man, Dr. Pepper tastes like medicine. I don't get it. I do is that, like, that's the appeal, right? Like, I know that Dr. Pepper has hardcore fans, and I think part of the appeal of Dr. Pepper is that it's not supposed to taste like anything in the known universe, right? Like, but I guess that's, to me, why it tastes just like, kind of like fake weird chemicals. Polarizing. A polarizing. Siri. Ban Rob. Alright, let's see. Yes, Vanilla Coke did go hard back in the day. What? Shout out to New Zealand. What time is it in New Zealand, Menelik? Probably like 7 a.m. or something. Menelik's growing like a rocket ship. Menelik, author of A New Eden and A New God. Second book in his Betaverse series just came out, so check it out. I always compare it to the Bobaverse series. If you like Dennis E. Taylor, yeah, you might like Menelik as an author as well. It's fun sci-fi. Let's see. All right, we got confirmation from Nick. Coke over Pepsi. Got some Dr. Pepper haters. You love to see it. Let's see. We're back on sci-fi. I feel like in the Discord server, there's like a sort of healthy amount of sci-fi chat. But if ever I open a thread and it's like 50 plus new messages, it's usually something random like spaghetti. Like, it's always like people have the hottest takes when it comes to like Coke or Pepsi or potato versus sweet potato. So I guess we'll get back on the sci-fi train. Wally says, Red Shadow of the Torture last year, and while I didn't not like it, I also didn't like it. I like the amount of, was that a triple negative? Who knows? Any insight into the series? Millions can't be wrong, but I just found it a chore. So I would say this might be... You're in luck. I agree. Here's my take on The Shadow of the Torturer. I really enjoyed the world building. It was a very intriguing world, a mysterious world, a world with a lot of layers, clearly a lot of thought have been put into it. The amount of historical references, literary references, I probably only picked up 10% of them, and that was already quite a lot. So it's clearly a very clever book, and I can see why there's so much to unpack in, even if you put all 4 parts together. It's not that long, but there's a lot to unpack in a relatively short amount of time. But I just didn't have that much fun with it. I really hated Severian as a character. Did not enjoy being in the mind of that guy. And I felt very conflicted. I feel like a couple of times I've complained about books with unlikable main characters, but that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy books with unlikable main characters. I I often use Alex from A Clockwork Orange as an example of a book that I think really works with a pretty dastardly main character. But the thing about Severian is it's a first person point of view, and it's like a narrative style where it's like, I'm gonna go on this journey. Well, I'm telling you of my travels, of my journey. And he's just such a horrible guy, and he describes things even in retrospect, like he's gotten to the end of his journey in a way that kind of like made me sick. And I'm like, okay, if I really if a character goes, well, there's two ways that a horrible character can go for me. It can either be redemption, all right, we can redeem this guy, or I think they're irredeemable, and I just want to see them, I want to see them go down, and I think we want to see them get their comeuppance. And I feel like, and I could be wrong, there could be twists in the tale, because I've only read the first book in the series. Well, some people like to say it's one book. The Book of the New Sun. I've only read The Shadow of the Torturer. Because of the framed narrative style, it seems to me that either of those options are impossible. Because he's already at the end of this journey, and he's describing things in a way that make me hate him. So I can't see how he's possibly redeemed. And he's writing this story. So unless it's some sort of like, twisty Magoo, he clearly doesn't die, doesn't get killed. I mean, maybe he's writing this story from like jail or something, but I'm like, doesn't really seem like this character gets his comeuppance. I don't know. There just didn't seem to be a way that I was going to get to the end of the series in a way that was satisfying me. Like, that particular character just lost me. But I also see the literary value in it. I can see why other people loved the series so much. It just wasn't for me. And Wally, if it's not for you, that's okay too. Alrighty. Went on a bit of a Book of the New Sun rant there. We fell behind the comments again, but that's okay. Are we talking about food? All right. It's spaghetti time. Like my spaghetti with a spicier sauce. Yes, I like a spicy vodka. I like an arrabbiata. Depends. Some of them can get really spicy though. Sometimes I might have to do like half and half. Like do like a tomato basil, however you want to pronounce it, with an arrabbiata, or a marinara and an arrabbiata. Mix the two just to kind of get a hint of that spice. But I don't know. Some things I want really spicy. I don't know if pasta is something that I want really spicy. I think I just like a little spice with my pasta. Let's see. Yep. Pretty much. Let's see. Yeah, Nick's tempting me to keep going with Book of the New Sun. He loves Severian as a character, especially if you read Earth as well. So now I got to read 5 books. It's explained in the final book, Earth. It's crazy. Maybe. I don't really believe you, to be honest, but maybe. I mean, I would almost just wish it if it was like just like a terrible guy. I think I would like it more if I like it when bad characters embrace the fact that they're bad. A bad character that knows they're bad is more endearing to me than a bad character that tries to convince me that they're good. It's the trying to convince me that they're good that I'm offended by, almost more so than the bad actions, which I know is not morally logical, but just from like an entertainment point of view, as a viewer or as a reader, I enjoy when characters embrace who they are. Don't lie to me. Let's see. Here's a good question. How much do you DNF, or do you keep going regardless? So I almost never DNF books. I can't remember the last book I DNF'd. I think it was probably about 8 years ago when I read, it was a John Le Carre book. Probably pronouncing that incorrectly. It's a French name. Was it A Perfect Spy? Dude, it was so long. It wasn't Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. It was, I don't know. Yeah, I think it was A Perfect Spy. And dude, that book is like 800 pages long, or at least like it felt like it. And I was like, for a spy, espionage, mystery thriller, this is super duper boring. So I DNF'd that book maybe like 8-9 years ago. I don't think I've DNF'd anything since. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. One, I try to research books beforehand. I don't usually go into a book completely blind or read a book that I think I'm probably not going to enjoy. So I think the average level of enjoyment I get out of most of the books that I read is fairly high in the first place, because I'm kind of curating my TBR a little bit in the first place. And then the second reason is that I feel like if I DNF something, that's not really helpful in terms of YouTube content. Like, I could just come on the channel and be like, hey, I picked this up after 100 or 200 pages, it didn't work for me, and I put it down. Which I guess in a way is helpful for you guys. But I would much rather finish it and then be able to give like a more complete take, a more well-rounded analysis on the book. So I feel like it's not impossible, like if I'm really hating something, especially if it's really long, that I could dip on it. But as long as it's somewhat readable and it's not overly long, I'm probably going to try and finish the book for the sake of being able to share my thoughts on it with you guys. However, I am pretty quick to DNF series. If book one is okay, I will push through and read book one, but I will not finish the rest of the series. I'm pretty brutal with my time in terms of like committing to series. Like, unless it's almost unanimously agreed upon that book one is not very representative of the series. For example, The Gunslinger in the Dark Tower. It's pretty short, stylistically pretty different from the rest of the books, and I actually liked it. I didn't dislike it, but I've liked all the subsequent books more. So unless I know ahead of time that you kind of have to commit to reading books 1 and 2, then I'll read books 1 and 2. But otherwise, I don't know. I don't DNF books, but I do DNF series. Let's see. Yes. That's the problem with sort of dense books or dense series, which maybe don't click for you, and people are like, but it's so good on a reread. You know what, Jonathan? I didn't really like it either. But the 4th time I read it, that's when it hit home for me. I'm sorry. That doesn't help me in terms of making content. I'm like, all right, what's up, guys? In today's video wrap-up, I'll be talking about how I read Book of the New Sun for the 3rd time and what I got out of it compared to reads 1 and 2. Like, unless, like, I'm just going to commit to being, like, a Book of the New Sun channel or something, I feel like that's not the best content for you guys. What is this? What is this tomfoolery? I've never read Empire of Silence, Howling Dark, Demon in White, Kingdoms of Death, Ashes of Man. And I haven't actually read Disquiet Gods, but I'm starting it tonight. Let's see. Spicy pasta. Nick, not a spicy guy. Yeah, I don't want super spicy pasta. I don't mind a little bit of it. Do I care if that's authentic or not? I don't know. I feel like the authentic way of preparing dishes is often the best. Like, there's a reason why it evolved to be that way. But also, everybody has different taste buds. Like, if you just friggin' love jalapenos, throw some jalapenos on that dish. I don't care. You're the one eating it. Let's see. All right, this is an interesting perspective from Dave. I love unlikable characters in comedies. The worse, the better. But hard to deal with in a drama. So, I'm not sure I quite agree with this, but I see where you're going. So for me, I can enjoy unlikable characters in comedies as well. For example, Seinfeld, they're all pretty flawed characters. And then It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is kind of like Seinfeld on steroids. They're all much worse, but a similar style of television show. But they can just do slightly crazier things on FX than you could on NBC. So I like those characters because they sort of like embrace a sort of like a stereotype or a trope, and they push it to the max. And obviously these are horrible people that you'd never want to spend time with in real life. But it's funny seeing them do the ridiculous things they do, and then it blow up in their face. And because, you know, these are not really like, especially in It's Always Sunny, they're not particularly like successful people, right? It's funny like seeing them you know, what's the sow the reap the rewards of the seeds that they sow. You know, that famous saying. Or every now and again, there's a character that you like even less, and it's funny to see them get one over on those characters. In a drama, I can like unlikable characters in dramas too. For example, Walter White in Breaking Bad. That was a character that at first I thought we were supposed to like. And then somewhere around season 2, I was like, oh, okay. This isn't going where I thought it was going. Let's kind of see how far this rabbit hole goes. So I think I can like unlikable characters in both comedy and drama. The thing that annoys me is when I feel like a show is trying to get me to root for them. Like, oh, they're flawed, but they're still likable. Oh, they're flawed, but they're still human. Or it's like, oh, don't we want to, like, can't we relate to, like, flaws in these characters that we have in ourselves? And I'm like, not those ones. Not me. I don't know about you guys. I hate this. I want to see this person die. I want to see this person go to jail. I want to see this person lose their toes. I don't know what show reference that was referencing, but no. And that's kind of like a subjective thing. What I think the writers want me to feel is kind of like a weird thing to react to as opposed to just like what's happening on the screen. But I don't know. When you feel it, you feel it. And when I feel like they're lying to me or tricking to me or trying to make me feel something that I think is an unwarranted response to the character's actions, makes me mad. Makes me very angry. Let's see. Ooh, now I'm intrigued, Rob. You've only DNF'd 2 novels. What are the 2, Rob? What are the 2? Nah, this is a bad take. Severian is not unlikable. I would say this is borderline objectively incorrect. I would say, yeah. I mean, I guess that Book of the New Sun is written in sort of such an abstract way that I could have misinterpreted something. But basically, I don't know if this is like a spoiler. Yeah, I won't spoil it. But basically, like, he describes something that I think is like truly just one of the worst things that you can do to someone, and like that's, yeah. I don't see the debate in whether that's likable or not, unless I just misinterpreted it. As I say, like the prose, the language is very sort of like, you know, maybe he didn't do that. Maybe he was lying to me. Although lying, saying you did something that you didn't do, is like also confusing. But I don't know. Let's see. Oh, Johnny Two Cellos in the chat. We got a celebrity in the chat. Johnny Two Cellos. If you are a fan of animated shows such as BoJack Horseman, Futurama, Rick and Morty, his channel is the place to go. He did an episode on the Futurama. Futurama's not a hard word to say. Why are you botching that word, Jonathan? Every episode of Futurama ranked. It was like 2 hours long. I don't think I've ever watched a 2-hour YouTube video before, but I did because it was great. So, Johnny, appreciate the support. Anybody that likes those kind of shows, go check out his channel. He's like literally the best on YouTube. Let's see. Oh, we're planting another flag in the global map of today's live stream. Hi from Turkey/Istanbul. Very cool. We'd love to follow you. Thank you so much for your suggestions. Travel to Istanbul, please. That would be cool. That would be a part of the globe that I have not yet traveled to. And I have gotten to travel a little bit. Lucky me. I was born in England. Family moved to Australia. Now I live in the United States. And I've been to a few other places here and there. But not Turkey. Maybe one day. Let's see. Menelik asks, do you support the characters in HBO's Succession? So that's a good example of a show with unlikable characters, because I would say pretty much every character in that show, at least every sort of like supporting to main, like there might be people that pop in, but everyone of like median to high importance to the show's story arcs, bad people, bad people. Maybe Greg on the lower end of the bad people scale. Still, wouldn't say that Greg's great, though. Wouldn't say Greg's great either. But yes, because I feel like the show acknowledges what they are. So it's not trying to convince you that, oh, they're just like flawed, they're complex, but really they have some like goodness to them. It's like, Yeah, they're not the most evil people in the world, but the show acknowledges and embraces the fact that they're pretty bad. And so I can get on board with that and be like, every episode, let's tune in. Let's see what these bad people do this week. What are they going to do? That's going to be have negative consequences for themselves, the rest of the family, society even. What are they going to mess up for society this week? So yes, Succession, one of the best shows, created by one of the co-creators of Peep Show, one of the funniest comedy shows of all time. If you haven't watched Peep Show, first 4 seasons are pretty much perfect. It gets a little wobbly after that, but is still very funny. All right, let's see. Books with Bengus, another great YouTube channel to check out if you like sci-fi and fantasy. Any recommendation for the next big sci-fi series for me to try? I love The Expanse and Sun Eater. Maybe something by Hamilton, Banks, or Reynolds. So those are 3 of the kind of big 3 space opera writers from sort of like around like the 80s to the 2000s. Reynolds is still going. Hamilton's still going. Unfortunately, Banks passed away. But those are definitely 3 great choices if you are interested in trying space opera. So of those 3, Reynolds is my personal favorite. I have read 6 of his books and pretty much enjoyed all of them, with my favorites being House of Suns, Redemption Arc, the second book in the Revelation Space series, and Aversion. So if you are someone that has not really read any hard sci-fi before, I would maybe start with Aversion, because Aversion, it follows stories that take place in different time periods. So the start of Aversion doesn't really feel like sci-fi. Like we're on a ship and we're like sailing across the ocean, and you're like, okay, you know, this is something familiar for maybe like someone that's not read a ton of sci-fi, and then they, the sci-fi elements start to get introduced. If you are comfortable reading sci-fi, I would either pick up House of Suns as a standalone, or if you said as you're looking for a series, just jump into Revelation Space. I feel like Revelation Space is a little bit uneven, but I thought the second book, Redemption Arc, was just absolute banger. One of my all-time favorite space opera books. Let's see. Fernando says, have you read Red Rising? I have read the original trilogy. I've read the first 3 books, Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star. And I will continue the series. I'm just kind of waiting for the final book to get announced, because to me, the original trilogy felt pretty complete. I didn't really think it needed a continuation. However, people seem pretty high on the sequel series. The ratings are pretty good. They're all pretty long. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when I fit them into the TBR. But I definitely like the series enough to continue when I decide to do so. Let's see. We're getting off topic again. I like it. Do you have a favorite sport or team that you follow? My wife and I are big baseball fans, so are excited for the season to start next week. All right, Stephen. You're a baseball fan. Tell me how I did with my fantasy baseball draft. All right, we're going to go through this quickly. My hitting lineup: Marino, Guerrero, Horner, Berger, Volpe, Tucker, Robert, Reynolds, Naylor, Thomas. And then I got some, we're not going to go through the bench. And then pitching lineup: Snell, Luzardo, Bello, Bibby, Leclerc, Lang, Finnegan, Seawald. You got to do the bench for the pitchers. I'm sorry, guys, because you rotate them in and out because the pitchers don't play every day. Watcher, Garrett, Cole, Suarez, Williams. So there you go. Let me know how I did. Do I suck? I have a perpetually mediocre fantasy record. Like, I feel like every year I come 5th in both baseball and football in my fantasy leagues. So anyway, I do like baseball. I would say, what is my favorite sport? I kind of love all sports. The thing that I spent the most time doing was actually Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about 12 years. And then I had a bit of a knee injury and the pandemic hit. And that's when I picked up golf and just kind of fell in love with golf, and haven't really gone back to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So at the moment, I'm really into golf. As a fan, I kind of have adopted all the American sports since moving over. But I would probably say, yeah, football, basketball, baseball, not so much ice hockey, not so much NASCAR, because I'm actually into Formula One. You can see the Charles Leclerc 2019 model Ferrari up there. Guys, if you don't follow Formula One, there is nothing more painful than being a Charles Leclerc fan. And you can be like, no, Jonathan, what about the Cleveland hasn't won a World Series in 100 years or ever or something? No. I don't care how bad your team is. I don't care. Like Buffalo Bills, they got to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row and lost. It's still not as bad as being a Charles Leclerc fan. I cannot express to you the amount of bad luck that this man has had. Like, I love Formula One, but I hate Formula One in the sense that there is so much luck involved. It seems like every single week, something goes wrong with his car, the team messes up his strategy, something weird happens in the race, where he's won 5 races in his career. I legitimately think he should have won 15. It's like, that man was like Severian in his past life. Like, I love him. I think he's a great guy. He must have been a horrible human in a previous life, because I've never seen anybody with this. I don't know if it's karma or what, but the amount of bad luck that man has driving that red Ferrari around. Jeez, guys. Anyway, Steven, good luck. Good luck with whatever baseball team you support. All right, let's see. Definitely falling behind on the comments. Menelik, not a fan of Greg from Succession. Not a great guy, but not many great guys to choose from on the show. Let's say, books, songs, and other major. Jonathan, what's the most famous sci-fi classic that you haven't read yet? So I actually went through the most shelved sci-fi books on Goodreads. This was a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago. And I think the most read one that I hadn't read might be The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I know another one of them was The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, and I just read it. I ticked one of those missing classics off my list, so I'll be talking about that probably in next week's video. But yeah, I've done a pretty good job of ticking off a lot of the classics by now. So back to some space opera. Nick, I used to think that Nick and I had pretty similar tastes in sci-fi, but Nick's kind of coming at me with all the spicy takes today. Banks is by far the best out of those 3 British space opera authors. Culture is pretty good. Well, I agree the culture is pretty good, but I don't think pretty good is better than Reynolds. I think Alistair Reynolds is my favorite of the 3. Peter F. Hamilton, also very good, but it's just, books are too long. Nev asking when I'm going to read some Neil Stephenson. I have a lot of Neil Stephenson on the TBR. I've only read Snow Crash, but the books that I want to read, I'm not sure. I don't know if they have a date. So I don't have a guaranteed locked in schedule, but at the moment I kind of know roughly what I want to read through about July, and then after that I've got some freedom. So I don't know, let me know what you think I should put into the TBR later in the year. Let's see. No, he is a generational talent that is cursed with bad luck, things out of his control. We will accept no Leclerc slander in the chat. Like, if you guys thought I got mad about Coke versus Pepsi, like, you don't want to see me. If I see any Leclerc slander in the chat, this stream's gonna take a nasty turn, you guys. Otani already in trouble. Uh-oh. Oh, is that the gambling stuff? I don't really know the details. I just saw the memes. But living in Los Angeles, I'm glad Otani came here. Well, maybe I'm not. Maybe the ticket prices are going to go up. But, I don't know. Amazing player. Hopefully I get to go see him live. That would be pretty cool. All right. Steven approved fantasy lineup. Maybe we can do better than 5th this year. Frank O'Donnell, you mean you actually like sports? I don't know. Is that sarcastic? Do you guys think I genuinely like sports, or am I just pretending so I don't look like a sci-fi nerd on the live stream? Pick a sport, and not like curling or something. Pick a sport, and I will try to give you like 30 seconds to convince you that I'm like an actual sports fan of that sport, and we'll see if I can convince you or not. Let's see. Modern F1 is very boring. So the modern F1 is kind of boring for 2 reasons. One, Red Bull is by far the best car. Max Verstappen is by far the best 2 Red Bull drivers. So yeah, Max Verstappen's won like, I don't even know the number, like 30 out of the last 31 races or something silly. No, slightly less than that. 30 out of the last 33 races or something. And it's also a little bit boring because the cars are too big, and the cars have gotten bigger for safety reasons, which is good. But the car size relative to the tracks means it's just not that much overtaking. They tried to fix it with the new regulations, less dirty air, making it easier to stay close to the car in front, but it only half worked. I don't know. I feel like F1 races are usually pretty mid, and then you occasionally get amazing ones. That's kind of been my experience being a fan over like the last 6 years or something. Stephen Lamb, Texas Rangers fan, World Series champions. All right, well done to you. I'm not a hardcore Dodgers fan, but I'm a Dodgers fan living in Los Angeles, and we're perpetually pretty good and perpetually slightly underperform. But we did win the pandemic season. Let's go! Kershaw finally got his ring. Let's see. Handmaid's Tale, well worth reading. Nice, that is on the TBR. Kabloom. I was wondering if you have stints on certain subgenres of sci-fi. Been on a time loop binge recently, starting with A Town Called Discovery by R.R. Hayward. So that's cool. I haven't actually heard of that particular book. Need a water break here as I think about stints of certain subgenres. So I'm not sure. I do like to kind of read things in little batches. So I wouldn't, for example, read 10 time travel books in a row. But within a month or two, do I like to read 3 or 4 different time travel books? Yes. I do like to compare. That way I can maybe make a themed video for you guys. But I don't read any one subgenre for too long, so I don't get burnt out on any particular author or subgenre. The voice is starting to fade. Maybe at around 2 hours we're going to have to call it. We'll see. We'll see how my voice is doing at the 2 hour mark. We're at 1 hour 36 at the moment. Is there another genre you love reading or favorite non-sci-fi book? Let's see. I haven't read any non-sci-fi in so long. I can't even remember. You know what? I really liked The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I read that probably when I was in my early 20s. And at the time, I didn't really care about prose. I always thought, oh, these poetic authors that your English literature professor loves. Oh, how lovely. Look at the metaphors and the iambic pentameters, and didn't care about anything to do with that. I just wanted a good story. And then I read Oscar Wilde, and I thought, wow, every single sentence is enjoyable to read. Every string of words, every thought, every paragraph, every line of dialogue is just a joy. I really enjoyed reading The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I thought the themes and the story were things that I connected with as well. So as far as kind of big classics go, that would possibly be at the top of my list. It's still not the most important thing when I pick up a book, especially in sci-fi, but definitely the book that kind of like opened my eyes to maybe not the importance, but I guess just sort of the potential, the possibility to enhance one's reading experience with the prose. Let's see. I don't think I really have any guilty pleasures. Like maybe Deathstalker. I mean, Deathstalker has kind of some pretty obvious flaws in terms of very direct exposition and things like that. But I do think it is genuinely good in terms of like the ideas and the action and the ideas. Let's see. Oh, all right. People want me to try and convince you that I actually know sports. Curling. I don't really know much about curling. Boxing. Do I know much about boxing? I don't really follow that much modern boxing. Like I saw that Anthony Joshua knocked out Francis Ngannou recently. I know that a lot of the boxing you see like on your social media is like YouTube boxing these days. It's all the YouTubers fighting each other. Jake Paul is supposedly going to fight Mike Tyson. I've seen some of the training videos, and I think Jake Paul is like better than people think he is. But he's not Mike Tyson. Even Mike Tyson at 57 or whatever still just looks like an absolute demon. I would know, yeah. You but I don't really follow boxing closely enough in terms of like I don't know who like up and coming like contenders are or anything like that. Let's see. So Stephen asked about tennis. I used to play tennis from about year 7 to year 11, and that was throughout. I guess pretty anything in the last 20 years was pretty much through the era of Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal. We'll throw a little bit of Andy Murray in there as well. I did actually go to the 2008 Australian Open in Melbourne. I was living in Sydney at the time, so Melbourne's not that far away. And I got to see the semi-finals where Djokovic played Federer and Djokovic won, which was kind of a bit of an upset at the time. That was actually going to be his first Grand Slam title that he would end up winning. This was kind of before Djokovic was Djokovic. And then Nadal played Joe-Wilfried Tsonga and lost. So those were kind of two big upsets at the time. So I do like tennis, but I've not really kept up with it. Like I know that Alcaraz and Medvedev are two of the top players now, but I don't really know much beyond that. Power slap. I don't know anything about power slapping other than you do not. I don't think they're getting paid enough to get brain damage. Like would I let someone slap me for $1 million? Like, yeah, but like, they're slapping, but they're hitting you with like this hard part of the palm. Like people get knocked out doing power slap. It's an insane sport where I don't think they're making enough money to. I mean, hey, if you like it, if they're truly passionate about power slapping, let them power slap, but it ain't gonna be me. Hockey. Field hockey or ice hockey? I actually don't really know much about either. I know that the LA Kings won the Stanley Cup around 2014, but I've only been to one live game. And I liked it live more than I did on TV. As someone that doesn't know a ton about ice hockey, I find it a little bit hard to follow on the TV. The puck's so tiny and it moves so quickly, you don't really follow it that well. But I felt like I could follow the puck much better live. So maybe I'll need to go. Maybe I need to go to some more LA Kings games. Ferret legging. I'm afraid to Google that. Like, is that like a real thing, or is that like something that's like, I'm gonna get a virus that'll crash the stream if I if I Google ferret legging. Let's see. Oh, you're sick. Sorry about that. I think that means Frank thinks I did a good job talking about all of these sports. Not that I look unwell. Let's see. Rugby union, or are you guys enjoying this sports nonsense? Rugby union or rugby league, Benlik. And when it comes to rugby union, I kind of really only care about international when Australia plays. I don't really care about the club or state level union that much. Whereas rugby league, since moving to America, I haven't really followed it. But back in Australia, I did watch the rugby league. The Sydney Roosters were my team. Sydney Roosters tend to be pretty good. They have won a premiership or two. So let's see. It's like the one sport that New Zealand's better at than us. Like Australia just like toasts New Zealand in like every other sport. But like 75% of the population in New Zealand is dedicated to playing rugby and rugby alone. So they've got like a freakishly good rugby team. All right. We might have answered all the sports questions. Let's see. Let's see if there are any sci-fi questions. That's what we're here to do. For 60% of the time, we talk sci-fi every time. But has a good question. Other than Egan, are there any Australian sci-fi authors worth reading? So, off the top of my head, I'm not sure if I have read any other Australian authors, but I know that 36 Streets by, I believe, T.R. Napa, that is a cyberpunk book that came out in the last few years, I think. And it got a nice blurb or comment on the cover from Richard K. Morgan, writer of Altered Carbon, one of the cyberpunk classics. So I do want to read 36 Streets. And Liam from Liam's Lyceum is a big fan of Joel Shepherd and the Spiral Wars series. It's a bit too long. I'm a bit nervous to like get into it, like another series. space opera series. But if you like space opera, if you like military sci-fi, he says it's like The Expanse, but better. Joel Shepherd is Australian, but I'm struggling to think of any other Australian authors right now. Let's see. Nick says ice hockey is easy to follow on TV. Probably if you know ice hockey. Maybe it's just because I was new to the sport. I didn't find it as easy to follow. But I had a good time. I had a good time at a Kings game. At good old... It's called Crypto, like the Crypto.com arena or something now, but I'm just going to keep calling it Staples. It'll always be Staples Center to me. There we go. Tom agrees that Joel Shepherd is a good Australian sci-fi writer. So if you're looking for a series, try out Spiral Wars. Let me know if you like it. Never even heard of John Birmingham. I'm a bad Australian, I'm just realizing. The Aurora... Ooh. You ever go to pronounce a word and just like blunder it in front of like a bunch of people? It's not great. I don't recommend it. The Aurelius? The Aurelis? I keep on wanting to say Aurora Borealis. That's why I keep flubbing it. Like, I don't think this is that complex a word, but for some reason my brain just wants to say Aurora Borealis. Anyway, a good way to find Australian authors. It's like the Hugos, but only Australians. Okay, we stacked the deck. I should check that out, actually, I guess. I'm surprised I haven't heard of that before, but because I'm just a bad Australian. When you move, well, I guess it's up to you. I feel like moving to America, I could spend my time trying to follow more cricket, trying to follow more rugby, trying to follow more Aussie rules football. But it's like I just have to spend my whole time on the internet, and then I'd have not really anybody to talk to about it unless I just, found the subreddits and whatnot. Or you can just embrace basketball, embrace baseball, embrace football. And then when you're at the water cooler at the office and someone's like, hey, did you see the Dodgers game last night? I don't have to be like, no, but the Sydney Swans versus the North Melbourne Kangaroos was a real banger. It went right down to the final siren. So, but sci-fi, I guess yeah, you know what? I'm going to try and do a better job of keeping up with Australian science fiction. Let's see. Frank says he's reading The Light Brigade by Cameron Hurley. Seldom read military sci-fi, but this one is pretty good. Okay, that sounds interesting. Is Cameron Hurley Australian? I feel like spelling Cameron with a K is a pretty Aussie thing to do. I don't know. All right, I'm going to Google it right now. Yes, he's Australian. Nope. I've lost so many of these 50-50s in this live stream. You guys keep burning me. I feel like I'm being set up. The wordies. I'm being set up by my own wordies. All right. Let's see. Cameron is a female Cameron. That's cool. Military sci-fi. Sounds interesting. Very cool. Let's see. Greg Matthews and Thomas Keneally are great Aussie writers, but they don't do sci-fi. Wrong channel, buddy. Get that non-sci-fi out of here. Sci-fi is the best fi, unless it's Oscar Wilde. I'll give props to sci-fi and Oscar Wilde. Let's see. Rob says, thoughts on a Canticle for Leibowitz. I DNF'd it, but heard many great things. It's making me want to give it another shot. So this is another classic which I liked, but I didn't love as much as most people. I feel like I was lied to by the cover. The cover has this monk looking down. There's flames behind. There's books in the flames. There's like these black birds flying through the flames. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be dark. This is going to be epic. Why are those books on fire? Who's burning the books? What secrets don't they want being revealed? And then it's just this very quiet, very slow. Yeah, there was an apocalypse. We're in the future now. There's a bunch of monks. They kind of look for artifacts. And they just have philosophical discussions. And it's kind of funny in the first part. And then part 2, not as funny. Part 3, there's a lot of philosophical discussion, but I felt like it was very, here's my opinion on this. And I was like, okay, it was interesting to read, but I didn't really connect with it personally. I didn't think it was that interesting a story. I didn't think philosophically it was that layered. I don't know. I think perhaps if you are specifically looking for religiously oriented sci-fi, there might be some things to dig into that you're looking for. But I think my brain was just not set up to succeed going into that book. Because I was like, oh, it's epic. It's kind of borderline fantasy. There's flames. It's post-apocalyptic. It's dystopian. And it was just like a chill talky book. So maybe I'll reread it in the future now knowing what to expect. I might be better primed for it. But it was not really... It didn't really hit for me, Rob. You guys are making me give some of my more spicy takes. I like to be positive on the channel. But not every book's gonna hit for me. And you guys have brought up a couple of them, but that's okay. Yeah, see, the Canticle, Cheryl, big supporter of the channel. Thank you, Cheryl. She's a Canticle fan. Frank's a Canticle fan. Nick's a Canticle fan. Renko's a Canticle fan. People like it. I mean, I don't think they're wrong. I guess maybe it just wasn't what I thought it was, or wasn't what I wanted, or I just didn't connect with it. I don't know. I was like, I'm trying to think. I guess if I wanted like a funny book, just commit to being funny. Why be mildly funny for 1 out of the 3 parts? Like, just be a funny book, you know? If you're going to be a slow philosophical talky book, just embrace the philosophy. Don't put flames on the cover of your book, right? Those flames are lies. Let's see. And so just to clarify, I don't think you have to be religious. I guess just find the religious discussions interesting. Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe it's just a matter of execution. Or maybe it's me. Maybe it's a me problem. I don't know. Canonical. People love it. Everybody else likes it. So, yeah, read it anyway. I think there's stuff there that people will connect with. Yes. Those sneaky covers, Nix. Yeah, yeah, I agree, Dave. I don't have a follow-up joke that's funnier than yours, so I'll just let your joke be the punchline. Yours is a good one. Let's see. What was the question from Burned My Guitar? Congrats on the 10,000 subs. Any new collabs with other booktubers in the pipeline? What do you think about the new 3 Body Problem TV series? So, I actually don't have any collabs scheduled, but I do like to do like roughly maybe like 1 a month, because that's one of the most interesting and fun parts of YouTube for me, getting to be a part of the community, meeting other people, getting to chat with them, learn their perspectives, other books that they recommend that I might not have heard of yet. And it's even though I've read quite a lot of sci-fi, there's plenty of great sci-fi out there. There's always more books for me to learn about and add to the TBR. And, you know, I'm somewhat interesting. 10,000 people like me enough to click the subscribe button. But I mean, sometimes it's great to have someone else to talk to. So it's not just me talking to the camera. It is nice to interact with other humans. So I do love my collab videos. So I definitely will be doing more, but I don't actually have one on the calendar. Let me know if there's a YouTuber, a booktuber that I haven't talked to yet that you think might be interested, that you think might be a fun guest to have on the channel. Oh, and I have not watched the 3 Body Problem, but I'm probably going to start tomorrow night. I am looking forward to it. Let's see. Never judge a book by a cover. Well, yes. Probably. I think for the most part... So obviously, I don't think book covers influence my opinions on books. Although I guess maybe it might influence my expectations. But it doesn't affect my opinion after I've read it. But it does influence me before I read it, in the sense that one of the reasons why I picked up Empire of Silence is because I love the cover. Purple's one of my favorite colors. Hello. All right. We got a cool purple cover. We got a guy holding some kind of lightsaber looking thing. There's some guy's hand reaching out of the ground, trying to grab the light. Who's that guy? What's he doing in the ground? Is he not dead yet? What's going on there? So I thought Empire of Silence had a sick cover, and even though the Sun Eater was not that big when I started it in 2020 or whatever, the cover was one of the reasons why I picked it up. So I do think covers can be a good thing in terms of getting piquing your interest, getting you to pick up a book that you might not otherwise. But yes, the actual content is what matters, and probably shouldn't let the cover inform your opinion too much. Let's see. Cheryl asks, have I chatted with Joanna? I have, actually. I believe she was one of my early collab videos that I did. And I think we talked about character-driven sci-fi and fantasy books. And I would like to collab with Joanna again. I do want to talk to her because I know she's a fan of The Dark Tower. So I have a couple of books to go, so it probably won't be my next collab. But in the future, I would like to have another chat with Joanna. Steven says, would love to see a direct collab video with you and Bridger from the Library Ladder. I am a fan of Bridger. I think he does amazing deep dives on various authors, the history of various genres. I really enjoyed his video on Dan Simmons, his video on Tad Williams. Even though I didn't like Otherland as much as he did, I thought that was a fantastic video. And what a voice. What a voice the man has. That's what do you call it, a baritone or something? I mean, if he wasn't doing YouTube, he could certainly be doing like voiceovers. He could definitely do the he could definitely narrate movie trailers, I reckon. I think he's got a future there if he so desires. Let's see. Modern covers for sci-fi classics are often ridiculous. They try to sell them to the modern audience. Yes, I feel like you'll see a cover, like a first edition cover for a book that came out in 1960, and you're like, oh, it's like there's some water and a mountain, and then that same edition comes out in like 2020. Same book comes out in 2024, and it's like lasers and shooting stars, and it looks like we're going through the end of the star thingamajiggy in 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I'm like, that book's really not that dramatic, but you got to capture attention. And I much prefer the ones that are done by actual artists as opposed to like, you know, here's just some like, you go to some AI image generating thing and be like, trippy stars, wormhole, blue and orange. I don't know. Why do I type with one finger at a time? I don't know. Because it's an unfavorable impression. Anyone that uses AI generated images for your book covers, unless maybe you're like a self-pub person that like really can't afford to do it. Hey, I'm glad you're getting your book out there. But any publisher that's doing it, shame on you. All right, I feel like this has been a slightly less chill live stream than normal. We're getting a little riled up. We'll take a quick water break and try and we'll chill it down for the next couple of minutes. The voice is just about surviving. We might wrap up soon, but on a vibey note, we're gonna vibe our way to the finish line. All right, let's see. Moyd from Media Death Cup. Well, Moyd made a little appearance in the chat today. Shout out, Moyd. Shout out for making a joke about my mum. But that's classic Moyd. What else would you want from a Moyd drop in? Let's see. Bengus asks, when you discussed The Expanse, is my memory right in remembering you said it used a trope you've been getting tired of? Was that a trope, a threat involving a hive mind sort of thing? Yes. I won't say when and where and how, because I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but I feel like the hive mind thing is something that I'm starting to get a little tired of, unless you have an original take on it. Unless you can take hive minds in sort of a new or interesting direction. I don't think it's inherently bad, but it's one that I'm starting to feel like the more sci-fi I've read is one that is sort of well-trodden territory. Menelik says, don't talk bad about our future AI overlord. You'll be the first to go. Maybe. You know what? Even though I don't like AI, I guess from like an artistic point of view, I do feel compelled to be nice. Like when I talk to Alexa, like I try to say please and thank you. I don't know why. Is it because of inherent politeness in me, or is it a subconscious fear of the inevitable AI uprising? And if they're gonna spare any humans, maybe it'll be the polite ones. Fingers crossed. Let's see. Nick, not a fan of the UK Sunita covers. Yes, I like the Sam Weber did the first one, and then oh man, why am I forgetting? Yes, I'm not Googling it. I'm just thinking with my eyes. Oh, come on. How does Sunita cover artist not give you the answer that you're looking for on the first page of Google? Well, somebody will know it in the chat. I know it. It's just not coming to mind. Oh my goodness, this is going to annoy me so much. Kieran Yanna. I had to scroll down way too far to get that out. Anyway, all of Kieran Yanna's covers from book 2 onwards, bangers. Absolute bangers. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question. Fernando, favorite taco spot in LA? You know, this might be kind of random because it's not exactly a taco spot, but Reel in Malibu does the best fish tacos. The mahi mahi tacos at Reel In are, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's see. So follow up on the Hive Mind chat. Benga says, I saw that same Hive Mind threat came up in Shadows of the Apt, recent sci-fi book Rubicon, so I've also been getting tired of it. Yeah, I do think it's something that's interesting, and I don't mind it, but there just has to be a spin on it, you know? Because it is quite a common trope in science fiction. Let's see. Welcome, Yennefer. Have I read the Nightstone trilogy? No, the only Hamilton books I've read are Pandora's Star and Judas Unchained, and while I did like them, whew, they were some big boys. So it's gonna be, I will read more Hamilton, but it might be a while. I'm gonna have to sort of plan ahead a little bit. Let's see. Yep, Benger's had it. Kieran Yanna is the artist for the Sunita series. Does an excellent job. Let's see. I'm not sure if this is in regard to something in particular, but we might have a recommendation. Oh, let's go. Is that a Leclerc helmet? Wait, if you're trolling me with a Carlos Sainz helmet, I'm going to be absolutely furious. And if that's a... Wait. No, that's a Leclerc helmet. Let's go. This is what you love to see. This is how you get your comments in the chat. You change... I don't know if you changed that just for the sake of this particular live stream, or whether you're also just a Charles Leclerc fan, but that made me happy. I very much appreciated that. Anyway, Charles Leclerc fan, Saturn Atomic, asks, or just kind of says really, Walter John Williams' Hardwired fame, Dread Empire series. So I don't know if that's a general recommendation or maybe something to do with the Hive Mind discussion. I'm not familiar with the Dread Empire series, although I have heard of Hardwired when I was doing some research for a couple of cyberpunk videos that I made last year. They didn't make last year's TBR, but in the future, I do want to read some more cyberpunk. Maybe Walter John Williams. Let's see. We got a taco place recommendation, Sonora Town. I'll have to check out what that is. Yeah, and also like taco trucks. It's kind of like, if I'm at an event and there's a taco truck there, it's usually fire. It's usually gonna get bomb tacos from a taco truck. I don't know if there's any one in particular, just any trucks. What's a favorite Hive Mind book? Good question, Cheryl. So I'm trying to think. I feel like Ender's Game. Ender's Game the insect-like aliens that Earth is sort of at war with, that Ender is going to battle school to train to be a leader to fight against. Probably one of the earlier, well, actually, Ender's Game's not even really that early. It's like 85 or something it came out, but earlier books that I've read that used a hive mind concept that I thought was executed very well. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any others. That's a good one. I don't know if this is spoilery. Is it spoilery? I'll DM you, Cheryl. There was another one that came to mind, but it comes in book 2 in the series, so I don't want to spoil anything. But there's a modern duology that has a hive mind part of the storyline, which I quite enjoyed. Oh wow, let's see. OMG Puppies, thank you very much for the donation. OMG Puppies says, "Oh, that's a cute dog. Now I miss Charlie." Oh, Charlie has a play date tonight. We're taking Charlie to friends of ours that have a mini bird-a-doodle named Phoebe, and they're gonna go nuts. They love each other. When they see each other, they go crazy. Anyway, OMG Puppies. Aristoi is an interesting AI/VR/neural interface themed book by Walter John Williams. Okay, very cool. Is that part of the Dread Empire series, or is that separate? I'll have to look it up. But it sounds like Walter John Williams might need to be an author that I add to the TBR. So thank you for the suggestion and thank you for the donation. Let's see. All right, Dave, trying to meld some concepts here. What's your favorite sci-fi sport? Are you a basketball fan or more of a Running Man kind of guy? Ooh, interesting. I guess while I've got Ender's Game on the brain, the games that they play is sort of like the tactical battles that they do at battle school. That seems fun. Like I can't remember how old they are, but if you were like 12 and you got to go around in like a weightless sort of battlefield and you have those lasers that you can shoot each other and then it like freezes your suit if you get hit, that's got to be like the most fun version of paintball ever. Like, what a sick game. Let's see. Any other sci-fi sports? I can't really think of any sci-fi sports. For some reason I'm thinking of Quidditch. I feel like everybody's done the Quidditch complaints, but as like not someone that's really involved in the Harry Potter scene. I don't know what the general response to it is, but it's just like a casual that watched the movie. I'm like, the points for the golden snitch is insane, right? Like, we all agree. Do we all agree that that's just like a game-breaking rule? Like, the game makes no sense because of that one particular rule. It like defeats the purpose of doing anything else in the game. Anyway, I don't know if that's like a boring take because I'm not really a part of the fantasy or Harry Potter community, but just watching the film, I was like, I'm having a good time watching these films. This Quidditch looks fun. Rules make no sense. Let's see. JP Lovecraft, it may be a stretch, but I feel like The Dreaming Void is hive mindish. I believe that's a Hamilton book, right? Is that from his Void series? I haven't read that one, but I am interested to try more Peter F. Hamilton. Yennefer says, I read the first 2 Hyperion books. Is it worth reading the Endymion books? Okay, I have quite a strong opinion on this, because Hyperion, The Fall of Hyperion, and the sequels, they're pretty divisive. Most people like Hyperion, and then from there, it's a bit of a crapshoot. My advice to you is, read the second book, which you've already done, so this is general advice. Read the second book. If you like The Fall of Hyperion, continue. Because even though Endymion is a little bit different, it kind of can take some of the things that The Fall of Hyperion does and moves further in that direction. So if you were okay with the shift from Hyperion to The Fall of Hyperion, I think the Endymion duology is worth a shot. I like them. I feel like Endymion had some great action. The Rise of Endymion had some great philosophy. If you didn't like The Fall of Hyperion and you just liked Hyperion, don't continue. It just gets further and further away from what Hyperion was stylistically. If you didn't like the fall of Hyperion, anything's possible, but the Endymion duology, probably not for you. That's my advice. Let's see. Another question from Bengus. Did you ever finish the Foundation books? I lost so much steam with it at Foundation and Earth, but still want to continue with the prequels. So I just read the original trilogy, Foundation and Empire, and Second Foundation. And even though Asimov wrote them as short stories, they were originally published as 8 short stories, 4 of which were combined into Foundation, and then he wrote an additional sort of like introductory story, and then the next 4 were split up into what became books 2 and 3. So even though it is one story, for whatever reason, I really connected with what he was doing in Foundation. I really, really liked the first Foundation book. And even though I think the second book introduces the best Foundation character, I really just didn't connect with books 2 and 3 as much as the first one for whatever reason. I still liked them. I still thought they were worth reading, but I wasn't so high on Foundation where I was like, oh yeah, I need to read all the other books in the Foundation universe. I was kind of satisfied with the trilogy, and now when it comes to Asimov, I'm more interested in picking up, mainly his standalones. Over here, I've got, what is it? The End of Eternity, and more of his robot books. I did like iRobot, so I have not read those. Whoa. Yeah, if anybody has, let me know what you think of the other Foundation books. Rob says, Dan Simmons is one of my favorite authors. I love his sense of humor, much why I like Vonnegut. Two of my favorite authors, so you are in good company. That is much appreciated, Rob. Let's see. Sylvester asks, Giant series. Have you read all the books? Inherit the Stars. No, I'm not familiar with this series. If you've read it, let me know whether you think you think I might like it. Dave says, I tried to type basketball, but autocorrect fixed it. Okay. There's also Rollerball, Jump Ball from Starship Troopers, Blurnsball, Futurama, and of course the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games I would not like to compete in. I feel like that would be one of the worst sports. I would probably do Power Slap before I did the Hunger Games. Calvin Ball. Sounds like a great sport if your name's Calvin, unless in Calvin Ball, Calvin becomes the ball and you just try and hit and kick Calvin around into the goal, in which case, not so fun for Calvin. Let's see. JP Lovecraft says, man, I've tried Hyperion like 5 times and always stop somewhere in the second story. The Fedman, what's his name? Kassan, I think. Or whatever story, always makes it put it down. Does it get better? So to that, I would say, yes, probably. In the sense that all of the stories are quite different. I feel like most people like the Priest Tale. Most people like the Poet's Tale. But beyond that, it's pretty up and down. Because basically each story is in a different subgenre of sci-fi. Some people are going to be drawn to the military sci-fi of the soldier story. Some people are going to be drawn to the cyberpunk of the detective story. So I would say keep going. I forget the order. I think maybe the Poet's Tale comes next, and then the Scholar's Tale. What did I say earlier? Did I say Priest twice? What I meant to say is the 2 most popular ones are the Priest and the Scholar. I would keep pushing until you get to the Scholar. If you don't like the Scholar's Tale, then maybe Hyperion's just not for you. Because the Priest's Tale and the Scholar's Tale, most people like, and I think are really, really good. So I would say keep going, and then let me know once you get there. Let's see. Nev's book channel says, have you watched the Foundation series? Season 1 was quite decent. Season 2, not so much. Ooh, okay. So I think I watched 4 episodes of Season 1 and then dipped. I didn't think it was bad. I thought it looked great. I thought the production quality was high. I liked the visuals, and I really liked Lee Pace as the Emperor. I thought Lee Pace does a fantastic job. But I just really couldn't get into it. I thought that the story was moving pretty slowly. It's a story where you, I think, had to make changes from the book, because the book just, it jumps around so much, and it just really wouldn't feel very cohesive for a TV audience seeing the characters and actors change over and over again. So I understand a lot of the changes that they made, but I feel like the romance that they tried to fill up a lot of those gaps with romance, and I just was not for me. So I don't know if season 2 is worse than season 1. Maybe I did. Maybe I made the right choice. Let's see. Apparently, Philip Jose Farmer made a version of baseball. The ball had spikes, and the batter took the bat with him when running the bases. So do you take the ball with you too? Like you hit, because if it has spikes, it might stick into the bat. And then you run around with the bat in your hand and the ball stuck to the bat at the same time? Come get it. Come get the ball, I guess, while I run the bases. Let's see. Ron asked, does the Quantum Thief series get better or worse as it goes? I'm trying to decide whether to continue. So, I gave the first book a 9.5, I gave the second book an 8.0, and I gave book 3 a 9.0. So, if it's a binary answer, I guess I'm saying it gets worse. But I still really liked books 2 and 3. The second book kind of got, I don't know, it got pretty weird, it got pretty mystical, got pretty magical. Book 3 felt similar to book 1 with some of the hard sci-fi. It upped the stakes. I liked a lot of the character stuff that it did. I just didn't think the story beats kind of hit quite as hard for me, but I still had a ton of fun with it. So I don't know. I would say it's similar all the way through. I only preferred the first book by a fraction. So if you liked it, continue. If you didn't like it, I don't think books 2 and 3 will change your mind. All right, guys. Well, The Voice made it to the 2-hour mark. I'm gonna say we're gonna wrap this up at 2:20, just so we keep the energy up, we keep the wordies wanting more. So if you have any questions that you've been sitting on, get your final questions in, and we'll wrap things up. I really appreciate everybody joining us. This has been fun. We got a little feisty at times. We got a little bit heated talking about Charles Leclerc, Coke versus Pepsi. But overall, I think the vibes have been pretty good. Let's see. Book songs, another magic. Do you ever do booktube events? No, I didn't know there were any booktube events. Michael K. Vaughan has got a good sci-fi one in the summer coming. Okay, well, I'll have to do some research. The only sort of event I went to was, oh geez, I'm forgetting the name of it now. It was like LA Con or LA Sci-Fi Con, something. I went to a convention in Los Angeles, and they had some interesting sci-fi authors do some talks, like David Brin and some others, and I only got to go for a little bit, so I didn't get to go to a ton of the sort of activities, but they had some really cool books for sale. I got to meet the owner of, what's it called, Cowboy Space Books, a cool bookstore in Palm Springs. I got to meet Robin from the Book Wormhole, so that was a really cool event. So I got distracted. Is it bad? Is it bad? I just said I gave it a 9.5. No, it's not bad. Although 50% of you will hate it. It's a very divisive book. 50 pages in, you have no idea what's going on. There's a bunch of words. I don't know what they mean. I don't understand the science. It's just wacky. It's a super wacky book. But if you just push through all the technobabble, if you push through all the science, at the end of the day, it's just a fun caper. You've got a thief trying to pull off a heist, and you got a detective trying to solve a case. And if you just use those as your two anchors to get through all of the psychedelic quantum fantabulousness, you'll have a good time. Let's see. Reading speed. I say read at whatever speed you enjoy the most, whatever you're able to take in the most. Don't worry if you're not reading as many books if you want to. If you feel like the pace is preventing you from reading what you want, or it's just not as fun, you could try picking up the pace a little bit, but just find out what works for you. I don't think you have to read at any particular pace. Nick, I need you to say something nice. You've been coming out with all hating on all of my takes today. It's not bad. Well, thanks, I guess. I think it's pretty good. I liked it. I liked it more than Nick did. What's something Nick and I agree on? We both like Blindsight. There we go. We found some common ground. We ended the stream on a high note with some good vibes, some positivity. And that's the thing, you guys. That's the fun in reading. You never know what you're going to get. It's a journey. You're going to get some cool concepts, some different characters, some different ideas, some crazy worlds. Sometimes you'll connect with it, sometimes you won't. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong, other than that Blindsight's pretty sick, and that I'm just here to give you my reactions, my analysis, and I like to curate. My goal with the channel is never to say what's good or bad. It's to say why I liked it and why I didn't, and why you may or you may not. And then you can take that, and hopefully it's helpful for you guys finding books that might be worth trying. And hopefully they hit more often than not. And they usually will. You know why? Because sci-fi is the best fi. There you go. We did it. We brought it full circle. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate everybody that came to join live. If you're watching later on and you weren't here live, I appreciate you too. Thanks a lot for 10K. We're going to keep it going. The sci-fi is going to keep coming. New videos, new collabs. I'm going to try and get some authors on the channel. So that's something to look forward to in the future. And till then, stay safe, my friends. Keep reading the good stuff.